Okay. So
Yes.
we're talking about handling. This is part 2. So we're going to review these. Nicole kind of went over this in part 1, and so considerations that we cover are that we take into account. Offense if a deliberate action, hand towards moving towards the ball, hands on body, additional movement away from the body, a second action. Girls trying to protect their face and bringing their arms up, makes body unnaturally bigger, hand arm above the shoulder, attacker score directly into opponent's goal, attacker gains possession control, then scores in the opponent's goal or creates a goal scoring opportunity. So if you're in the attacking third and the ball hits the hand and they immediately regain control, then and score, then that's a handball. Or if they use the hand like Diego Maradona and goes and uses his hand to score a goal. It's not usually an offense if directly from their own legal part of the body to if it comes off their foot and hits their hand, or their head and hits the hand. Sorry about that. Directly from a player who is close, so they're within proximity. It doesn't, there's no reaction time to move away. Hand and arm close to the body if it's within their body frame or next to down by their side in a natural position. Or it's a sliding hand to the ground to support the body. So if they go into a slide and they have it there to support their body as they slide through to block the ball. Jason, you look like you're getting ready to say something.
No, sir. You're fine. Go ahead, please.
Okay. Okay, so everybody's got those considerations, right? So we're going to go through. We are going to go through the quiz that was put out. Hopefully, everybody had a chance to look at it and answer the questions. So we're going to start here with the first one. It is a local a MLS game that was just played about a couple of weeks ago. So we're going to go ahead and play it, and then we're going to play it twice, and then I'm going to ask you to vote in the chat window. Okay? Did everybody see that? Give me a thumbs up, Jason. So what does everybody think?
Do you want us to speak or just go in the chat?
You can speak. Go ahead. Go ahead, Eli. Tell me what you used.
I say no, because his arm is close to his body. He's actually looks like he's almost trying to do everything he can to get it behind his body when the ball hits him. He's not making himself unnaturally bigger.
Okay. Anybody else want to chime in?
I'd completely agree with that. I mean, he was trying to get it away from his body. He was not trying to get involved with the ball at all. He was actually trying to block it.
Okay. Anybody else got something? Armin? Where did it go? So there's really no definitive answer to this. It could go either way. A couple of things that you could go ahead and look at in here. See if I can get it popped up. Anyway, let me get to the spot. So there's the angle that we have now. Mr. Sabiga, he had a different angle from where we were at, so it might present that the arm was away from the body when it hit there. However, Eli, you are correct. It's coming down to the side, and from our angle, it looks like it was right next to his body. But you could really wasn't above the shoulder. The attacker didn't score. It wasn't an attacker. Hand and body, there was no additional movement. It wasn't a deliberate action. However, it did hit the hand and stop the ball from going through. So where he was at, it was one of those, if you had the angle that he had, you might have called it. In ours, it might have been, in our level of games, it might have been a different story. So moving on to the next one, clip number 2. Okay, what do we got?
So for me, I got, so obviously he is making himself bigger, and obviously his arm is right above the shoulder. It's in a unnatural position.
Very good. Anybody else? Everybody agree?
Yeah, and I was going to say he even deliberately tried to get the ball into the net, so he tried to strike it towards the net, so it could have even been scored on.
Okay, very good. Good answers. So the next one. does everybody think?
I would say this would be yes or no. I'm saying no because it came off of his head. So he was actually trying to head the ball and it hit his shoulder after he headed it.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay. You're correct. The answer to that one was that the defender plays the ball with his head, and the hand was in the jumping position, according to FIFA. Okay. So moving to the next one. And the final one. Anybody got any thoughts off of real time? Eli, you want to explain your answer? Everybody want to look at it again?
Yes, please, one more time. So I'm assuming that when the red player slides, he hits the arm. It's up in the air, right? Now the one he's supporting his body as it slides. Because it's kind of slow, so I don't see.
Here, we'll
where
play
it
it.
hits him.
We'll play it through.
Right, rather. Okay, that's a good one. Yeah, so obviously that arm is way up there,
Mm-hmm.
and so for me, I have a penalty there. That's a handball, and he's obviously stopping the crossing there from that attacking player, and arm is way above the shoulder too. So
Like
the arm up there doesn't have to do anything up there because it's not like you said the one on the other arm is supporting the way of the body going through the slide, but that one is just way up there.
Right.
So I do have a handball and penalty.
Right. Okay. So anybody else got anything to say? Okay, so yes, the arm was way above the shoulder, and that's where it was sticking up. They took a risk by leaving it up there. Makes the body unnaturally bigger, and so yes, it is a penalty. One thing that was noticeable with this was where the positioning of the referee was during this decision. Look where he's at. So something to make note of and try to maybe emulate in your games as we start moving forward or towards the end of the season. One other thing that should be brought up, there's been a change with where they identify the hand versus the shoulder. It is now, if you're wearing a short sleeve shirt or at the armpit, that is where it is at. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, so now if you're wearing a short sleeve shirt, it's now right there at that cuff where it stops. Hopefully it's not at your elbow, so the armpit marks where the arm begins and the handball area is on the arm. Does that make sense? Any other comments, questions, or issues that we have that I didn't answer?
Yeah, this is Armin.
Uh-huh.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, your training sessions have made it all the way down here to northern Arizona. So I enjoy participating, even though I no longer officially should. It's not clear to me I understood your ruling on the first example. It was the one that was most confusing to me. So could you please re-explain the official result of that call?
On the very first clip?
Yes.
Okay, the one with the so let me get it up here.
I think that was the shot on from Wando that
Yeah,
got
this
blocked.
one?
That got hit.
This one, Armin?
The one with the hand where the guy was on his side and he stopped the ball from going forward. And your answer, I thought, was it could go either way. And then you also tried to include the kind of soccer that we typically ref. So I was trying to understand how to make that call, both officially and in the kind of soccer that we ref.
Right. So there was no definitive answer going one way or the other. It was just the ruling on the field.
Whom?
Definitive by Mr. Sabi for this particular game. Okay. From MLS, there was no definitive answer that was given as to what the ruling was. So they went with what was on the field.
Armin, this is Jason. Can I chime in here real quick?
Yes.
Yeah.
Hi.
So
Thanks for
that
not
clip
taking me off your list.
Yes, sir.
By the way, do we get to help you drink that wine behind you?
That seems to be a talking point of all my Zoom calls. So the difference between this first clip as opposed to the other three clips. So the other three clips came from a training program from FIFA where they give us the exact answers and why. So we know exactly what their position is in those videos and why they made those decisions. The clip from the MLS match, we don't have that luxury. It hasn't been vetted and had an actual answer sent out to us. The MLS official in the game called penalty kick. VAR reviewed it and did not feel it was a clear and obvious error. So they did not overturn it. I believe this is a situation where the law applied at the professional level is a different application than we would feel is necessary at the local level. The body control that's expected of those defenders at the pro level is just very different. The explanation at the local level is this is not handball, based on there's no time and distance for the defender to react. That striker is 6 to 8 feet away. So when he hits that shot, I mean, there is a millisecond between that strike and the ball hitting his arm. He's trying to tuck the arm into his body, so he's not trying to make himself bigger. When the ball strikes the arm, the arm goes shooting back. Like there's no strength in the arm. So if someone was trying to make themselves bigger, that arm would be a lot stronger. The ball would ricochet off of it rather than knocking it back behind him. So based on no time and distance, not a deliberate movement to make himself bigger, there isn't at a local level any expectation that that is going to be handball. At the professional level, they expect a higher level of body control and performance from those those players. And so I believe that is why they elected to go with the referee's decision. I'm not sure if you were looking at the chat, but I made the comment, looks very different in real time than slow-mo. When you see it real time at the very beginning of the clip, his arm looks substantially farther away from his body when the ball strikes it. And when you see it in slow-mo, it looks like his arm is almost at his side. So from Mr. Sabiga's angle on the initial clip, I can understand why he called penalty kick. but at the local level, we can't place that level of skill on these players because it's just not there. So the answer for this clip for youth soccer, not just in Idaho, but across the nation, is this would not be a handball.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Armin.
Thank you for asking for clarification, because a lot of people wouldn't, and they'd leave this meeting not having any clue what the answer is. So thank you for asking.
Mm-hmm. All right. Any other questions or comments that need to be reviewed or addressed?
Okay.
So now I'm just kind of seeing it from the perspective of the MLS official, and I know it's not in the on the considerations, but for me it's almost like he called it for the fact that he stopped a potential good shot on goal. That's the only thing the only reason what I can think why he called it. Now, not because he's made himself bigger, or the arm is on a natural position, rather than just the fact that he's stopping a shot on goal.
Sure.
So I don't know.
That came to that was one of the things that came to my mind as going through it. But like
So in reaction to that, so can we make a decision in a game based on what the potential outcome may have been? Or do we have to make a decision based on the factual information in front of us of what actually transpired? It doesn't matter where the ball was going. It has to be what actually transpired. So it didn't matter if there were 4 other people behind him. I'm confident Sabiga would have still made that decision. So when it comes to misconduct, if we're talking about dogzo or spa or a tactical foul, then in regards to misconduct, we take into consideration what could have come from that play. But when we are judging a foul, that has to be solely based on the evidence in front of us. It can't be based on what could have transpired. So just to clarify that thought process, yes, for misconduct, but not for whether it was a foul or not. Those considerations are very clear.
Okay.
anything else? All right. Well, if there's nothing else, thank you for attending. I'll hand it back over to Jason and go from there.
Will you try to put me back as host? I don't believe I have the option to take it back. I made you host for it. I think you might have to send me back as host.
Okay.
It's okay. I don't have many comments. You're just fine. I hope if you had the chance to watch last week, I mean, we really focused on the difference between attackers and defenders in consideration with the law, because it's a big change. The law is no longer equally considered across the board. The attacking third as opposed to the defending third has very different ramifications. So that's why we separated that off. The clips today were more based on really just giving you a wider spectrum of the considerations of when you see something happen, what should you be thinking about, how are you going to make that decision. So last week was very focused as to attacker versus defender. And I hope this week was more, that second clip, the balls or the arm's definitely above his head. So he's clearly making himself bigger. But then the third clip, his arm is up again, but because it comes directly from his own head, like the law clearly states, and then to his arm, it can't be. So similar type scenarios, but based on one factor that the law clearly states cannot lead to a handball offense. That's why it's not. And then the third one, I think Alex was spot on with, if it hit his post arm that was down on the ground, no handball. But since it's the arm up in the air that's making himself bigger, and clearly it's there for a reason in that challenge. I mean, same thing as the first clip. He has a millisecond between the ball strike to when it hits his arm, but a very different scenario of a defender trying to pull his arm into his body as opposed to a defender clearly putting his arm up in the air. So clips are similar, but based on the definitions and the considerations and the very specific language they've added to the law now, very different decisions. So that's kind of where we went with these video clips. So feel free to go back and watch this recording. Now, after we're done talking, feel free to go back and watch the clips again. But hopefully you had more of just a broad spectrum discussion and perception of handball after tonight. I think Mike did a great job making sure that we hit the points that we needed to for the videos, and everyone chiming in hit the nail on the head as well. So thank you very much for the training.
Yep. Thanks, people. For
Jason, I would have a follow-on question, of course. How do these new rules affect the second-hand motion, as in protecting yourself, your body, depending upon male, female, head, as you're doing that? What impact do these rules have on that?
So I will answer that. I'm going to make a quick comment first, and I don't want to draw this training out, but I hope a lot of you are kind of starting to see, with as finite as the law's going with a lot of these, and I understand the reason they're adding this language, or the reason they're getting definitive, just to make sure that things are clear. But it strikes me more and more that we really need to start moving towards a professional law book and a grassroots law book, because the expectations they're putting into place at the professional level, I understand. At the grassroots level, the skill and the ability of the players doesn't match up. To answer your question, the law still is in support of any time someone's hand or arm is inside their body frame. So if they're protecting their face or protecting, a private area they don't want to get hit in, if a gentleman doesn't want to take a groin shot and he puts his hand down, if his hand wasn't there, it would have still struck his body. So he's not making himself bigger. He's not gaining an unfair advantage. Likewise with a, boy or girl protecting their face. If they're not gaining an unfair advantage and the arm is still inside the body frame, then by the letter of the law, they have not made themselves bigger. They have not done it deliberately. They've not gained an unfair advantage. So that would still not be considered handball. That is a legal play. Mike referenced where if they put their hand up and then they kind of tip their arm and try to deflect it over. I don't see that a whole lot at grassroots local level games. I mean, it's definitely something more of a professional player would do. But if you happen to see that, then that's something to consider. But if they're clearly just protecting their face, or their arm is within the body frame where they're not making themselves bigger, that would not be penalized as a handball offense.
Okay, thank you.
And one last thing, I got to congratulate Rich. He's got some exciting news coming up. So anyway, that's all I have. I'm going to go ahead and you're welcome, Rich. I'm going to hit end and go from there.